you're set.
All right. Hi. My name is Christina Kleppinger, and I'm a casting specialist with Backstage. I work here out of Los Angeles, although we are now a global company. Backstage is in 74 countries worldwide, and we have talent, I think, in the 600,000 on the site these days. Outside of my work with Backstage, am a filmmaker. I write and direct. And so we thought we'd talk a little bit about the casting process and what casting looks like for filmmakers, especially if you're working on a project where you maybe don't have the budget to hire outside casting and you're kind of working on it yourself. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about the site in general and then how I use the site to cast my projects, as well as some new tech that we're rolling out this year. So as I move along, if you have any questions about the site or what I'm talking about or something's unclear, throw a question in and I'm happy to stop for a second and answer. So let's start with what Backstage is in general. So Backstage was started as a magazine in 1960. We have always been a resource for actors and creators and performers of all kinds. Our editorial content is very craft focused. We interview a lot of performers and now filmmakers and producers as well about their work, less to necessarily promote a specific project, but more to talk about the craft. How do you shape a career and how do you get that performance dialed in for show day? And then on the producer and creator side, we also talk about how you get projects made, why you choose the projects that you choose, what attracts you to a script, all of that great stuff. So in the last few years, all of that great content has moved online. And along with it, we've built out a really incredible casting platform. Now, my background is flipped. I'm so sorry. I don't know why that's happening. Let me see if I can fix that. If not, this is the site flipped. Let me figure that out for you. Along with the editorial content on the site, the casting platform has also moved online. Now, when we were just a magazine, it was the back few pages of the magazine that we posted casting notice, and largely for things like theater auditions and film. Although now that we're online, it's a full casting platform with a ton of incredible tools. Let's actually just swap this to something else. Easy, perfect. So when we talk about the casting platform, a couple things. Now, let me share my screen because if I don't have the background behind me, I can't show you what I was talking about. So, Patrice, does this look okay, or is this flipped as well? Okay. So when you log into the site for the first time, this is the big thing to know. If you've never used Backstage for casting, the site is kind of broken down into two parts, right? Our performers pay a flat monthly fee to be part of the site. And for that fee, they can post videos, they can add photos, they can change out their photos as often as they like, they can put in skills and a cover letter and a resume, all of that great stuff. For those people, if you're an actor or performer, you're going to be searching for jobs on the site. You're going to go across the top, you'll see where it says talent, and you're going to choose the talent side. If you're a filmmaker or a casting director or producer, you're going to be searching for talent for your project. The tab right next to that where it says creators is where you get started, because our creator accounts on the site are free. Anyone and everyone can create a filmmaker account on the site. It's just if you're going to be applying for jobs, you want to build out that full profile, that's where you need to jump over to the talent side. But I work with a lot of creators who get confused by that, and they wind up paying for a subscription that they might not necessarily need. So that's the first thing about the site to say. Perfect. So if you are using Backstage for the first time and you set up your casting account, you're going to see also across the top is all of our menu options. We've got an incredible set of editorial resources still because of the magazine part of the site. And all of that is accessible to you. We also do a ton of interesting things as far as the podcast. We do live streams with actors and performers and filmmakers. So be sure to check out all of that. I think it's really great resources for people who are trying to take that next step in their career. The first thing that we talk about when we talk about casting, and if you're a filmmaker who's never cast before, the first thing that you're going to do is put up a casting notice. You're going to hear this called a million things depending on where you are on the internet. It's a breakdown or a casting call or an audition notice or a casting notice, or all of those things. They all mean the same thing. It's the information that you're going to put out about your project, and it's attracting actors to apply for it. For filmmakers casting their own work, I think it's easy to get caught up in the minutia of this form. A few things that you should know about it. The first is that your production description and your role descriptions are the most important part. If you are working with a limited budget, maybe you're not paying actors thousands of dollars a day, as many of us content creators can't do. What's really valuable to actors is getting a copy of the footage of your project for their reel. And those two places are where you're going to tell the actors what kind of copy they're going to get. Because we call it a production description, we cast all kinds of work on Backstage. Theater and film and television and new media and commercials and, experimental projects. I see a lot of notices that come through the site that say things like a 6-minute short film as their production description, which is great, valuable information for your actor, but maybe not necessarily super attractive. And it's not telling them much about the footage. So that's where you're going to put like a really captivating logline and really attract your talent. Same thing when it comes to role description. This is where you get to tell us all about the character and their arc. My best advice for filmmakers who are maybe casting their first project or casting without the help of outside casting is that if you can walk away from physical descriptor as your character description, you're going to have a much better experience casting in general. If there's a specific reason why your character needs to look a specific way, whether that's, they have to be super tall, they have to be a particular ethnicity, they have to have, I don't know, red hair and green eyes. If there's a specific reason for that, awesome, go for it. But I think the more we can think about characters in terms of their personality and their type, what that's going to do is it's going to open up the options for you on the casting side. And for me as a filmmaker, I would rather see an actor who maybe doesn't fit the physical description that I see of the character in my head than someone who comes into the audition room and brings me something via their performance, right? That's always going to be more valuable for me. And so you can really narrow down into specifics on the role descriptions. We have a ton of tools for that. When you get to your application manager, you can dial it in even further with things like hair color and eye color and all of that great stuff. But the more open you can leave any of that, the better experience you're going to have. And I think it's well worth seeing actors who maybe don't fit the physical description you're thinking of, but might bring something really valuable via their performance. The big thing in one of our new features on the site is when you look at that gender dropdown, you'll now be given, I think there's 26 options on the site. So if you are looking for something very specific, you have a lot of ways to kind of dial into that particular kind of performer. The other option you have is to choose all genders. If it's not specific, or if, you're talking about someone in your film, like, a pizza delivery person who comes to the door, drops off a pizza and leaves. And that role can really be anyone. Leaving it open to all genders, again, gives you more options. Casting is largely about giving yourself options so that you can make creative choices down the line rather than logistical ones. The site is incredibly user-friendly as far as filling out this form. Give us as much information as you can. Again, that's going to give the actors a better description. Another little hint about filling out your casting notice on Backstage. Because we're at a point with COVID where actors are of varying levels of comfort being on set right now, one of the best things you can do is somewhere in your production description or in the audition information, give us a sentence or two about what the COVID plan is on your set. Are you looking for actors who are only vaccinated, or are you looking for actors of all vaccination status, but everyone on set's going to wear a mask? Or are you working in a place where those precautions aren't necessarily part of the day-to-day? Whatever it is, give us a sentence or two in that production description. All that's going to do is it's going to tell the actors who may be of varying comfort levels where your production fits on that spectrum. And so then they can make choices. What we're trying to avoid is an actor applying for you, you fall in love with their performance, they get excited about your project, and then something like that derails it at the last minute. So putting it right in your casting notice is a good place to start. The other thing about the site. So we charge a $25 fee to post a casting notice. However, we have a really exciting partnership with the Imagine Fest and the Imagine This Festival. Sorry, I'm losing my mind. And so the promo code Imagine Fest that you see on the screen there, if you pop that in the promo code box and you hit apply, it's going to zero out that cost for you. So you can post for talent on Backstage for free. You can use that project or that casting notice, that casting promo code. I clearly have not had enough coffee this morning. That casting promo code as often as you'd like. Use it for projects now, but also kind of keep it in your back pocket for later. So it's just Imagine Fest, uppercase, lowercase, but just all one word. A couple of things to note about the casting dashboard. This is going to be your home base as you're working on a project. I find that as a filmmaker casting my own work, it's really important to stay organized because you're casting at the same time as you're doing a whole bunch of other pre-production things. And I like the way that the casting dashboard is laid out because it makes that very easy. You can see the project you're currently working on there under My Productions, but underneath that, you'll see all of your expired projects, things that maybe aren't active on the site anymore. And you can always dial back into that for talent that you may have missed the first time through. Or I use that a lot if an actor auditions for me and they're not right for that role. But 2 projects down the line, they're right for that. If they still have a Backstage account, they're still going to be listed under that project. So you have access to all of those past projects. The other really neat thing is being able to add a collaborator to your project. So collaborators can do all of the casting tools with you. So make sure it's someone that you trust to have access to all of your casting. They can join virtual audition sessions. They can help sort through talent. They can message talent, but they're added project by project. They can't see everything else that you're working on, just that one project at a time. And then up at the top, you'll see where it says upcoming auditions. If I have a virtual audition schedule built out, that's where a link to that will live. I don't ever have to go hunting for my upcoming auditions. It's all right there at the top of my casting dashboard. Like I said, super user-friendly and intuitive. This is just a little bit more about adding a collaborator. The way that that works is that you'll put their email address in and send them the invitation. They, like you, will just need that free filmmaker account. They don't have to pay for a subscription to access your production to be a collaborator. And then once someone has been added as a collaborator, they'll appear in that list as a frequent collaborator for you. So you won't have to enter their email address each time. So if it's someone that you work with a lot, like I have a directing partner who I frequently work with, we can add each other back and forth as collaborators, and it just really streamlines the process for us. So when we're talking about going through talent, I think it's important to keep in mind a few things when I'm choosing people to come in for an audition. And I like the way that the platform functions for this because it makes it very easy to tell what kind of performer a talent is. So like I said, our actors on the site pay a flat monthly fee to be part of the site. And for that fee, they can add as many photos as they want. They can add video reels and audio reels if you're casting for voiceover. They can change out their photos. They can list their skills. They can add a resume. I look for actors who have a full and complete profile. If I run into someone who has 1 photo and 0 information, it tells me that this is an actor that's just getting started, or this is an actor that maybe isn't taking this super seriously. I can really get a sense of who a performer is before I take up my time having an audition of them. There are casting platforms that charge actors per photo. And when we cast via those, we don't think about this so much, right? Because sometimes you just don't have extra money to add extra photos to your profile. So when I'm using Backstage, I can use that as a bit of a litmus test. I can look for those actors who have video reels because that video reel gives me a sample of their performing and I can get a sense of who they are. You also will have a ton of sorting tools. So you'll see underneath each of these actors a thumbs up, a thumbs down, and then the ability to leave notes on the actors. The actors don't see any of that. So you don't have to worry about hurting anyone's feelings. Like if we were casting for actors in our 20s and these are the 3 that applied, Lily is clearly well outside of our age range. We'd give her a quick thumbs down. She would never see that. And so we don't have to risk it hurting anyone's feelings, but she would move over into no, and we could kind of move on with our casting process. Lots of options as far as filtering talent and categorizing talent on the site. And then underneath each actor's profile, you'll see the little image to send them a message and start an audition session. I'm going to stop sharing just for 1 second and talk a little bit about auditioning for your actors when you're just a filmmaker casting on your own. Because I think that it can be a really intimidating process and it just doesn't need to be. So one of the things that I keep in mind as I'm auditioning actors for my projects is that we're testing for two things in the audition room. The first is talent and skill level, right? We want to see if this is an actor who is good at their job. But the second thing is directability and personality. I find that for a good actor and director relationship, you need both of those things. You need someone who is skilled, obviously. We want actors who are good at their work, but you also need someone who is a team player, who sees themselves as a creative collaborator, who's going to listen to your direction, who's going to work with your team. All of those things are incredibly important for an actor on your set. And so you want to structure your audition session to be able to test for both of those things. And it's a little tricky right now because very, very few productions are doing in-person auditions. It's still not really quite safe in most places to do that. But there are ways to do that with virtual auditions too. If you are a filmmaker who has never held an audition day, my best advice for you is to put together a little bit of a team. If you're the director on the project and you're going to be working with these talent on set, your whole job in the audition room should be watching actors and directing them. That should be it. So that means that you need a couple of people to help you run this day, right? And the first and most important person you need in your audition room is a reader. And that just means that it's someone who's going to read lines with each actor that comes in so that you don't have to read lines. There's not a really good, effective way to read lines with an actor and watch them and direct them all at the same time. So if you have a reader in the audition room with you, you can do this with virtual auditions as well. That frees you up to just watch the actor's performance. Your reader's kind of going to do the same thing each time, and that lets you really focus and dial in on what an actor is doing. The second person, if you're running an in-person audition, when we get back to in-person auditions, is someone running a camera. It's a mistake I see young filmmakers make constantly, and it's the idea that you can remember everything that's happening in the audition room. You don't need to record it because you'll know who you like and who you don't like. And there's a couple of reasons why that doesn't really work. The first is that you're actually going to see a dozen different minute differences in performance, everybody doing slight variations on your work. And it's hard to remember who did what. Even if you're taking thorough notes, even if you're paying close attention, it's hard to remember who did what. Audition days are really long and they can be exhausting for filmmakers. And so you want to give yourself every tool to remember that as much as possible. The second thing, and this is particularly true of in-person auditions, it's less true for virtual auditions, is that acting often looks very different in person in front of you than it does on camera. The camera is going to pick up things that you miss in person. The camera is going to miss things that you see in person. And if your project ultimately lives on film, if you're working on a film project and not necessarily a live performance, you need to get that acting on film so that you can see what the camera is going to pick up. If you're running an in-person audition session, having a reader and having someone run a camera by itself, just those two people, is going to make your day run much, much more smoothly. The second thing that we should consider when we get back to in-person auditions is location. Auditions should not ever happen in your house or your apartment. No private residences, no hotel rooms. It obviously is for actor safety first and foremost, but I also believe that it's for filmmaker safety. I don't need 20 or 30 random strangers in and out of my house in a single day because I'm running auditions. Somewhere relatively public, but private enough that the actors can focus. Starbucks is a really bad location for auditions. I run into that from time to time here in LA. It's loud, it's distracting. No one can really focus on what they're doing. So those somewhere in the middle, somewhere private enough that you can have actors focus, but not so private as it's a private residence, just for everybody's safety. Last thing that you want to think about when you're setting up your audition day is timing. If you are working on a short project, your audition sides, which if you've never auditioned people, sides is just the portion of the script they're going to read in the audition room, should come in somewhere around the 2-page mark, maybe a tiny bit more, but not really more than 2 pages, which means that you need to schedule your audition times about 15 minutes apart. And this is true for virtual auditions as well. You want to aim for about the 15-minute mark for 2 pages of audition sides. The reason for that is that you want to give yourself time to go through the sides twice and make a little conversation with your actors, ask them a couple questions, give them time to ask you questions. 15 minutes is kind of perfect for that. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're scheduling your actors 5 minutes apart, or even sometimes 10 minutes is not quite enough. Because if you start to get behind, it's just going to compound, and audition days are difficult enough. So don't make it harder on yourself by getting behind. I think 15 minutes is kind of perfect for short projects or anywhere where I can keep the audition sides to about a page and a half, 2 pages. If you're working on something feature length and you want to have your actors read a little bit more, bump it to 20 minutes. And then you can work in 3.5, 4 pages of audition sides, sometimes even a little bit more. But somewhere around that 15 or 20-minute mark is usually ideal. Build out a schedule. I think the idea of an open call for actors is tempting because it gives everyone flexibility of schedule. But I just think for your own sanity, being able to track who's coming in when and giving actors a specific time to be at your office keeps it from having where if you say we're seeing everybody from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and no one comes for the first 3 hours and then everybody shows up at once. All that's going to do is make the actors feel panicked, make you feel panicked, and really set your audition day off on the wrong foot. So I think giving people a specific time to come in with the flexibility that actors have other jobs, actors have other auditions. So the knowledge that you want to give yourself a few extra spots in the day so you can move people around as you need to. That's ideal. It sets everything up to be super organized so that, again, your auditions themselves can be relaxed and focused. When we talk about the audition itself, like that 15 minutes, right? I work with a lot of young filmmakers or student filmmakers who aren't really sure what to do in that 15 minutes. So it's as simple as this. Remember, we're testing in the audition room for directability and skill, right? We want to test for both things. So when your actor comes in the room, the secret to working with actors is knowing that they deal with an incredible amount of rejection day to day. And that can be really disheartening. And so one of the best things you can do to set up your audition day to go well is being kind to your actors upfront, being excited about them upfront. Remember, these are actors that you chose to have come in. You already got excited about their profile. You want to see them perform well. And so letting them know that you're already excited about them in just a mild way is going to set your auditions off on the right foot. It can be as simple as if an actor comes in and you say, "Hi, my name's Christina. I'm the director on the project. We're really excited to have you in today. Do you have any questions before we get started?" That's as simple as it can be. You don't have to have it be complicated or a long spiel about the film, because remember, they've gotten some information about the film from your casting notice, but opening it up for them to ask questions. There was a very strange time in the industry where we told actors never to ask questions in an audition room. And I think that all that does is it's going to put everybody at a disadvantage. If an actor can take 30 seconds at the beginning of an audition to tell you that they're unclear about what you're looking for and give you 30 seconds to clarify that for them, they're going to give you a better audition. And that gives you a better sense of who this actor is and if they're the right person for your team. If you shut that down right away, you run the risk that they give you a bad audition, not because they're a bad actor, but because they were confused about what you were looking for. So taking the time to answer any questions they have up front, always worthwhile. From there, you're going to have the actor read through the material with your reader one time. I think that this first read is occasionally you'll get a really bad first read. No matter how good or bad, you're going to have the actor read again, right? If the first read is bad, like I said, very rarely does that mean that they're a bad actor. More often, it's because they didn't understand the audition sides, they were confused about what you were looking for, or they got nervous and whiffed their first audition. So instead of judging them immediately based on that first read, you're going to direct them a little bit and have them go again. This direction should come from a positive place. Telling an actor, "That was terrible, and we're going to go again," is a really good way to shatter an actor's confidence and make it hard for them to take your direction. So coming at everything from a positive way, the idea that we're going to go again, we're going to try this with a different option, this time can you do this? All of that's going to put an actor better at ease, even if they got nervous and whiffed their first audition, and increase the likelihood that they give you a great read the second time through. Direct them a little bit and let them go again. If that first read is incredible, it's the best acting you've ever seen, it's exactly what you would want on your set. Now you know that this is an actor with a high skill level, which is great. We love having those actors in auditions. Now you get to test for directability. So you're still going to direct them to change something about their performance and go again. this gives you the way to test talent and directability, right? If they give you that exact same really great performance, but it's word for word the exact same the second time, maybe that is a highly skilled actor who is not going to be a good collaborator for you on your set. So letting them read again gives you a sense of both things about their performance. That can be pretty much it. You can have a little bit of a conversation with the actor about the film and what you're looking for. Not every director does that. I like to, just because I want actors to feel like they're part of the creative process. The mistake that I've seen filmmakers make is feeling like they have to get in the audition room to the final performance that they want the actor to get to. It's just not necessary. You have lots and lots of time in rehearsals and on set to a certain extent to get an actor to the performance that you're looking for. Again, in the audition room, I'm looking for someone who I know has a good skill level and who is good to work with and directable. The other thing I've seen happen in audition rooms that really sets filmmakers on a bad foot is if an actor is rude to anybody in the audition room. This is more easy to see in in-person auditions. If they're rude to the receptionist or the assistant, or they're kind of testy with you in the audition room, that's someone who's going to be a little bit rude on set. So we just don't even watch those tapes after the fact. Obviously, the majority of that applies across the board, but we're not really doing in-person auditions right now. So Backstage has spent the last year developing out a handful of tools to help you do in-person auditions virtually, as close to in-person as we can do virtually, in a way that's safe. So let me share my screen one more time. So the big tool that we've developed this year is our virtual audition tool. You can still request self-tapes through the site. I love self-tapes, and I think they're a really good first step in casting. I don't advocate casting directly from a self-tape because you don't get a chance to direct the actor, and so you're missing out on that second side of it. Virtual auditions function, for those of us who have been on Zoom all year, very similarly, so it will feel familiar. However, a couple things about this tool. The first is that it is all run through the Backstage platform, which means that it's incredibly secure. Each actor is given a unique audition room link, so everybody gets a different audition room, which means that there's no chance of someone Zoom bombing your audition day, which is great. But there's also no chance of actors crashing each other's auditions because everybody is given a unique audition room, right? It's also incredibly secure in that the actors are joining the audition room and then the tool automatically starts recording what happens in the audition room. So like you would have a camera person in your live in-person auditions, the platform itself is going to record the actor's side of the performance for you. So you don't have to think about hitting record. There's no chance that you miss an actor's audition because you forgot to hit record or something failed with the recording. It automatically records it, and then it downloads it right to the actor's profile. So unlike Zoom, where you maybe will have lots and lots of videos sitting on your desktop, this doesn't take up any room on your computer. It all sits right there in the actor's profile within that application manager. Super simple, and then it also will move with them. So if you take an actor and you audition them and you really love them and you move them over to the callback bucket, that video is going to stay attached to their profile within that audition so that you can go back and rewatch it as often as you need. If you absolutely need to, you can download it to your computer. No problem. There's an option for that on the site. I like it because I don't want to spend up all of my computer space with all of my auditions. It stays right there from the site. You also have, because it records the entire actor's audition, the ability to do a little editing on it after the fact, taking out any conversation and kind of narrowing it down just to the virtual audition itself. Super simple to make. From that application manager, you're going to choose the talent that you want to see, and then you're going to request an audition from them and say to create a virtual audition. When you start that process, this is what your virtual audition schedule will look like, and you have a ton of customization options for this. You can set your auditions however many minutes apart as you want. Again, I would say 15 or 20 minutes is ideal. We want to give actors just a little bit of extra time with a virtual audition, because if something tech-wise goes wrong and it eats up the first few minutes of their audition, you still want to have plenty of time to work with your actor and test them and direct them and all of that great stuff. So aiming somewhere around the 15 or 20 minute mark, even if you're not planning on using every second of that with each actor, still gives you a little bit of buffer time on either end. You can customize it to say, I want to see actors from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. straight through. Every 20 minutes, I want an actor. But you can also say, I want to see people from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And because audition days are exhausting, every 5 people, I need a 20-minute break. And it will build those breaks into your audition schedule. From there, you can either manually fill in your actors, or you can hit autofill, pop all your actors into an audition folder, and then say autofill, and it'll just populate your calendar for you. The other really nice tool is that, like I said, often actors have other things going on, other auditions, other projects, other jobs. And so if they're not available for the time that you've asked them to come in, and you have blank times somewhere in your calendar, which I think it's a really good idea to have, you can set your audition schedule so that the actors can reschedule themselves, so that they don't have to ask you for a new time and you have to go in and move. They can see those 5 open times and move themselves into one where they're free. Now, that won't always solve the problem. Occasionally, an actor will still have to reach out to you for help because they can't fit any time in that audition day, but it takes a lot of the legwork out for you. If that's not something you're into, you don't want your actors to be able to move yourselves, you can set it for that. You have, like I said, so many customization options with this schedule. You'll put everyone in your schedule. You can attach your sides to the request so that your actors can see them ahead of time, and send out your audition request to your actors. As they confirm, you'll see down at the bottom next to Franklin's name a little green check mark. That means that Franklin has received his audition request from you. He's confirmed it. He'll be there. He's excited about it. If that has a little orange clock, it means your actor needs a new time. So it's good to reach out to those people right away when you see that and see if you can find a new time for them. And if it has a little paper airplane, it means the actor hasn't responded to their audition request again. I think it's really good practice for filmmakers the night before your audition day, or maybe even a couple days before, to start keeping an eye on those green check marks. And as you see people who don't have one yet, start to address that as quickly as possible. You want to get as many actors as you can into that audition day so that you have choices to make. Remember, this is all a numbers game, and so you want to have lots of options down the line. When it comes time for your audition day, open up your audition schedule. Like I said, it'll live right at the top of your casting dashboard. This will stay open in one tab. And then as you enter each audition room, you'll click that little purple camera icon next to the actor's name, and then it'll open that up in a separate tab for you. It's so nice because you don't have to go hunting for your audition schedule in between people. It's just as simple as finishing one audition, clicking out of the tab, and then you're right back to your schedule and you can just move on to the next person. Like I said, if you need someone else in this audition room, just like in-person auditions, I think it's really good practice to have a reader in your virtual auditions as well. You want to add that person as a collaborator. That's how they're going to be able to see this whole audition schedule and be able to jump in and out of rooms with you. So add that person as a collaborator. Now we're working on, coming down the line, it's going to be our ability to have multiple actors if you want to do chemistry reads, but for right now, it's one actor in each room, right? So adding your reader as a collaborator, as well as any people on your production team. Like I said, I work with a directing partner, and so I'll often add her as a collaborator so she can be in these virtual auditions with me. So you'll click on the purple camera icon and it will open up your virtual audition session, which looks like this. This is one of my coworkers, Christine, auditioning Connor, who we just absolutely love. Like I said, if you have been using Zoom all year, like most of us have, this will feel very familiar. Down at the bottom, you're going to see a bunch of options, just like when you're using a Zoom or a FaceTime. You can toggle on and off your video and your audio. You can even screen share with your actors, which is really helpful if you need to show them a reference on something. And then on the far end, you'll have the ability to chat with your actor. So it'll open up a little chat box. You'll have the option to chat with the actor in front of you. If, say, there's a video problem or an audio problem and you can't speak to them, and so you just need to chat. You can also chat with just your production team, but you can also chat with any actors who are waiting in the waiting room. If an actor signs in for their audition early, they're parked in a virtual waiting room. And so you can talk to those people as well if you need to say, hi, everybody, we're running 5 minutes behind and we'll be right with you. All from this window. So you don't, again, have to navigate in and out. Like I said, the second the actor joins, it starts recording. You'll see that little recording icon up on the top. And then after the fact, you'll be given lots of options to edit that video down. And then it'll save it to the actor's profile. It takes about 30 minutes for it to save it to the actor's profile after the fact. I would run these virtual auditions exactly the same as I run an in-person audition. I think that it's important to, again, start with a lot of kindness and enthusiasm because actors can be nervous. It's a new technology and it's just as difficult as auditioning in person. And so starting it with enthusiasm, reminding me this is the actor, that this is someone that you're already excited to see perform, asking them if they have any questions, and then just like with an in-person audition, running through the material once or twice. A couple of notes about auditions, whether in person or via Zoom. You can't ask an actor to do a stunt as part of their audition. And so if you need to see stunt skills from an actor, it's good to ask them for video of that because they can recreate it under safe conditions. But whether it's virtual or in person, it's not really appropriate to ask them to do a stunt as part of their audition in that time. You also shouldn't ask them for in-person auditions to touch another person. They can work that out if you're running chemistry reads and they're comfortable touching each other, but you as the director should not really ask that of actors because it often will put them in a position of saying yes when they're not really comfortable of it. However, I do think that if there's a skill that you need to see from your actors on set, you should get a sample of it in the audition process, either via video if it's a stunt, or if it's something like speaking a second language or playing an instrument, or I'm helping a filmmaker right now who's casting a project about Vegas card sharks, right? And so she needs her actors to be able to shuffle and deal like a Vegas dealer. And so we're asking actors to do that in the audition room because it's not a skill that she particularly has time to teach in between hiring an actor and getting them on set. And so she's looking for people who are already comfortable with that. Things like that, it's great to get a sample of in the audition room. You might give yourself a couple extra minutes to test for that. And if you are running in-person auditions and you're looking for something with a prop like the shuffling and dealing cards or like an instrument, it's good practice to have that on hand in case an actor isn't able to bring it with them. I think that that's a really good way to keep yourself from getting in a position of hiring an actor, asking them down the line if they can do a skill. Every actor I know would say yes, and then frantically try to teach themselves that skill. But rather getting people on set knowing what's needed from them. Like I said, your promo code to use the site is ImagineCast. I just wanted to leave that up on the script or on the screen for one more moment. We're also running some filmmaker office hours if you need additional help using the site, and that's the link for that Zoom link below. Once you've hired actors, let's talk about a little bit. I'll leave this up for just a second in chat, and then I'll pull it back down to talk to you more. Once you've chosen your actors, you've had your audition day, right? Audition days are exhausting for filmmakers. So I think it's a good idea to go home and rest before you start to make auditions, because at the end of your audition day, you're going to have so many different variations on your work. I think it's good to take a break and get re-centered on what you're actually looking for. I think it's a really good idea to reread your script in that time to kind of remind yourself, as you've seen all these variations on your work, what you were actually looking for from your actors. So when it comes time to actually start making decisions and hiring actors, the best thing that you can do is make yourself a list of every character in your project that you've been auditioning for. So these are my 5 characters, and then you're going to give yourself a column for first choice, second choice, and third choice. You're going to make all of those decisions right now. That way, as you're watching the tapes and you say, excuse me, this is my first choice, this is my second choice, this is my third choice. After the fact, when you call your first choice, if for some reason they say no, you know, they've booked another job, or they're no longer interested in the project, or they're no longer free for your shoot dates, you don't have to go all the way back to the drawing board and rewatch all of your audition tapes to choose a second choice. If you do it that way, this process is going to take forever. So if it's as simple as my first choice said no, okay, I just move down the line and I can call my second choice. That's ideal because it just keeps the process moving. You also don't get to think about the fact that you've had an actor say no to you. And then the actors, you don't have to rewatch their tapes 1,000 times. Like I said, in general, if someone was rude to me or an assistant or someone else as part of the audition process, I don't even watch their tapes. If their tape is brilliant, you're going to be tempted to hire them. And then you have someone who's rude or hard to work with on your set. It's just not worth it. So instead, I watch my tapes, I make my decisions, first choice, second choice, and third choice. And then as I move down, I, as the director, if you're not working with the casting director, you as the director on the project should be the one making the calls and offering your talent the role. Eventually, casting will handle that. Your producers will handle that. But I think for projects where you're casting on your own, it's a really good shortcut to starting to build a relationship with your actors. If they get that good news from you, you're the one that chose them. You're the one that wants to work with them. If they get that news from you, it starts the process of building a relationship, and then it's going to be easier to direct your actors on set. In that initial phone call, I offer them the part with a reminder of things like the union status of the project and the shoot dates and the shoot locations. All of that should be worked out by now. If you don't have all of that information when you start the process, often shoot dates are kind of up in the air. Still okay to start the process and put the dates as TBD in the casting notice and kind of get things moving. By the time you're offering an actor a role, you need to know all of that information. What is the compensation? What is the SAG status? All of that great stuff. I lay out just some of that basic information in the phone call. If an actor says yes, I say, great. You're about to get an email from our production team. Make sure that you read that through, respond, and let us know that you got it, right? The email is key, especially if you're casting on your own. These are often things that a casting director will handle for you. But if you're not there, you have to handle it for yourself. So the email needs to have every single bit of logistical information that an actor needs to know to be part of your project. So same things that you went over on the phone: shoot dates and locations, union status and compensation. Another sentence about your COVID plan, just to remind them it should be the same, hopefully, as what you put in your casting notice. But you're also going to use this email to start talking about things like food restrictions. If you're feeding your talent on set, which you should be feeding your talent on set, you want to find out up front what their food restrictions are. That way, when you provide food to them, you're providing something they can actually eat. Things like wardrobe. If you're providing their wardrobe and you need their sizes, the email is where that happens. Or if they're providing their own wardrobe and they need to bring you 6 different blue t-shirts to choose from on the day of the shoot, all of that you should start the process the second you hire them, all of this logistical information. I try to get even as far as, this is our shoot location and here's where you're going to park and here's how you get from where do you park in Los Angeles to the actual shoot location, because sometimes it's different, right? All of that logistical information, start getting it out of the way. The way I think of this is that the more an actor knows up front, the better the communication is from the second I hire them to the second everybody walks on set, the more likely it is that an actor walks on my set ready to work. In addition to all of this logistical information, I just think that it clouds up an actor's mind. They can't focus on building out a character if they're worried about where they're going to park the morning of the shoot, if they're worried about if there's going to be food options for them, if they're worried about what was the SAG status of this project. You want to be as clear with communication as possible so that an actor can focus on the craft of acting. I also, after this email goes out and an actor says, got it, I start the process of directing. I send the full script to the actor and I give them, a day or so to read through it. And then I start to reach out to them to say, do you have questions about the script? Let's start talking about character backstory. Let's start talking about how we're going to approach this scene or that scene. If there's any, things like stunts or difficult things that you're going to have to choreograph between the actor and the camera the day of, all of that stuff. I want to start that process right away. Again, so that the actor has a clear idea of what the shoot date is going to look like, and they walk on set ready to work. I personally am not a huge fan of sort of dictating things to an actor. I like to see actors as a creative partner and a collaborator on the project. And so starting that process early also gives the actor time to bring really good ideas to me and the production team. If they know that they would never say a line this way and I'm not particularly picky about that line and they have a suggestion, we can work all of that out before we're standing on set. Obviously, creating space for that the day of the shoot and having space for that on set is key. But if you start the directing process early, you can sometimes work those things out early. I think that it just makes for a really good collaborative shoot day. Last thing, anything that you've promised your actors in the casting notice through the casting process as part of their compensation for doing the project, whether that's a financial payment or if you're working on something very low budget and they're doing it for meals, copy, and credit, All of those things should get to your actors in a timely fashion. You never want an actor to have to chase you down for a copy of the footage. You never want them to have to, you know, jump on. We at Backstage hear from actors from time to time of, you know, they were promised X amount of payment and it's been 6 months and they still don't have it. I think one of the things that filmmakers forget about working with actors is that you're building out a network of people who are going to work with you over and over again. And actors talk to each other. And so if you make an actor chase you for footage or you make an actor chase you for payment, they're going to communicate with other actors and it's going to be harder to build out that network. You're going to be setting a reputation for yourself as someone who is hard to work with. And so especially for an up and coming filmmaker, it's important to set that off on a good foot. Okay, I know that was a ton of information just sort of thrown out all at once, but if you have questions, pop them in. I'm happy to go back and cover anything about using the site. The big thing that I'll tell you about using Backstage to cast your projects is that it's a really nice resource to kind of wrap around the whole filmmaking process. I think that from posting the casting notice to hiring talent, it makes it all very easy because you can communicate right through the site. There's no chance of kind of losing things in email later. It just is a really easy way to kind of start to finish, find and hire your performers. What are the best ways to share your casting calls? Yeah, so the nice thing about Backstage is that it's also public because we come from a magazine background. So when you post a casting notice to Backstage, it's, you know, searchable. Only Backstage actors can see all of the information and apply to it. But if you have a nice network on social media, you can always take that link to your casting notice and share it. And that way actors who maybe didn't see the notice on the site but do want to apply to it, they have a Backstage account and they think your project sounds interesting, can use that link to jump back to the site and apply. So you can always share it that way. If you find you've posted with Backstage and you're not getting a good response, which doesn't happen all that often, we've got a pretty good talent pool and there are always people that are eager to work. But if you've posted with Backstage and you're not getting a good response, reach out to us. My email address was in that last slide. I'm happy to share that again. Reach out to a member of the casting team, reach out to our customer support and say, you know, I'm having trouble getting a response. They'll probably put you in touch with me. But then there's a few things we can do on the back end to make it a better experience for you. But taking that public link and sharing it for yourself increases your own visibility. The other thing that you can do is kind of use it as a landing page for actors, right? And so I often will share casting notices out on my social, or I'll send them to actors that I know. It kind of creates one central place to like send actors in. You'll also see coming out on the site, actually, I believe it just launched, is the ability to invite talent. If you have actor friends or actors in your network who maybe don't have a Backstage account, but you definitely want to have an audition, there either is or will shortly be a link to invite them to apply, and they'll have the chance to create like a few-day free trial of the site, put together a profile and get in the mix for your project. And hopefully that goes well enough that they decide that they want to be a Backstage member as well, but that way you can get people in on your casting notices. Mostly we're just in the interest of helping you find the talent that you're looking for. Oh, the last thing you can do to kind of increase the number of eyes on your project. This is especially helpful if you're looking for something specific. You need actors with a specific skill or a very niche type. You as a filmmaker, if you posted your casting notice on the site, you can access the talent database. And so you can search all of the talent on Backstage and you can search them by a million different filters, location and hair color and eye color and skill and union status and all of that, right? You can even search specific actors by name. It'll pull up the results for you, and then you can invite those people to apply directly to your job. So if you have an active casting account or a casting notice on the site, you can search the talent database and there will be a link on each one to invite them to apply for your notice. That sends a message to the actor that says, you know, this filmmaker is already especially interested in you because they're seeking you out specifically. Here's how you're going to apply to the notice, and then you can kind of fold those people right in. Super helpful if, like I said, you're looking for something specific or you're not quite seeing what you want and you want to widen your net just a little bit. We actually have a good section of commercial casting directors that use the site for that exact purpose all the time. But I think it's a really incredible tool for filmmakers. Any other questions? A few other things to note about things that are coming up as questions start to come in. We, in the next month or two, are going to launch a crew platform. So if you're a filmmaker who is creating your own content, but also working on crew jobs, you will then be able to give yourself a profile, just like the actors do, although specified for crew. We accept people that are any type of crew: PAs, producers, screenwriters, editors, all kinds of things, gaffers and grips. Create a crew profile, and then in the next 2 months, we're going to start to launch job tools for those as well. So you as a filmmaker, if you're trying to crew up a project, can put up a casting notice for your actors, but then also put up a casting notice for crew, not a jobs notice for crew, and start to interview people that you want to have work on your project with you. If you are a crew member and you want to start looking for new jobs, you'll start to see those jobs like hit the site, like I said, in the next few months. Just cast 2 major roles in a full-length Zoom play reading through Backstage. Amazing. Question, I like to rehearse. How do you suggest that get organized with the cast? I think that's a really good question. So like I said, I call my actors and then I send out an email immediately. That email is a really good place to start coordinating schedules for rehearsals. I think, again, starting that as quickly as possible. Really, that email where I send the logistical information is the first time that I jump off site. Everything up to that, I try to message actors through the site. It protects my private email address, and that way, if I am auditioning 100 people for my project, not 100 of those people have my email address, just the people I'm hiring. So when I start to send that information, I give actors all of my contact info, my phone and my cell phone number and my email address. All of that goes out to the actors, right? I think putting all of your cast together on an email chain in some way, shape, or form, once everybody is confirmed, they're all on board for your project, and starting to coordinate schedules for rehearsals. I do find that if you ask actors openly, when do you want to rehearse? You're going to get a million answers and it's going to take forever to find a time that works for everyone. Instead, what I advise is for you to set a rehearsal schedule with the internal knowledge that that schedule is flexible. If every single actor in your project, you want to rehearse on Monday from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, right? For example, if every single actor replies to you and is like, I'm not free until 4 o'clock, knowing internally, I know that I'm a little flexible on that and I can push it to 4 to 6 o'clock instead of 3 to 5. I would offer the actors a firm time, knowing that I'm probably going to have to be flexible on that. But especially if your cast starts to get bigger, I mean, if it is just 1 or 2 people, putting everyone on a chain and finding a time that works around everybody's work schedule, everybody's rehearsal schedule for other projects, that works great. But once you get into like 3, 4, 5 people in your project, more than 5 people in your project, you set a rehearsal time with the knowledge that you might have to be a little flexible. I do the same thing with auditions. I set an audition schedule and I send it to the actors, knowing that internally I need to be a little flexible if I want to see all of those actors. I'm also a director who loves to rehearse because I think that rehearsals make the script reading day or the shoot day or the play itself go much, much smoother. And so I think setting that expectation right from the beginning, there's even a space in your casting notice where if you know your rehearsal days, put them in the casting notice. And that again gives actors the option to say, A, this is a really organized director who I'm going to have a good experience working with. But B, I'm here for one of the shoot days and I'm out of town for every single rehearsal day. And maybe that actor kind of takes a step back and doesn't apply to your project. Lots of options there as far as that. But I think giving yourself time to rehearse with your actors, A, continues to build out that network. You're not just interacting with them on the audition day and on the shoot day, but also as you rehearse, you're going to learn how to collaborate with them. You're going to get really good input from your actors. And then you can bring all of that to a shoot day or a reading day or whatever it looks like for your final project and have it go really smoothly. Again, I want my actors to walk on set with a really good understanding of what is expected of them when. As far as rehearsals, if you just can't, there are times when you can't get everybody in one place at one time. I think that that's just one of those creative things that filmmakers have to work around. The more people you can get in one place at one time, the better. I also find that rehearsals are really helpful for actors just getting to know each other and being comfortable around one another. Especially if you have any sort of physical contact in your project, whether that's like normal, friendship hugs and what have you, all the way through to like intimacy scenes, your actors need to be comfortable around each other. And so rehearsals is where you find that out. You don't want to skip the rehearsal process and get on set and realize that your actors are wildly uncomfortable around each other and don't have any chemistry. Give yourself time to direct all of that ahead of time so that the day of your shoot goes a little bit more smoothly. Other questions keep coming in. I think we have a few more minutes, but until another question comes in, I just want to say one more thing about the platform as a whole. I think that as much as I use Backstage to cast, I use it just as much to get resources, to get connected with other filmmakers, to get advice from filmmakers that I admire through editorial content or through the interviews. We do Q&As from time to time. We've done Zoom seminars, dialect workshops, all kinds of things. As the crew profile rolls out, and this actually is the next, how can you connect with filmmakers, the next question, so perfect timing. As the crew profile rolls out, one of the things that we're adding into that experience is a networking aspect. So keep an eye out for that, because I think that's going to be the easiest way to connect with other filmmakers. However, I think that if you are one of those people that kind of jumps the line between performer and filmmaker, making your own content, connecting with other actors, applying for other filmmakers' work, all of that stuff is going to help you build out a network of people that you actually work with. I think that networking in like that negative way that we sometimes say it as filmmakers can feel really disingenuous. But I think the easiest way to connect with other filmmakers is to support each other's work, to work on each other's projects, and do it in a way that feels organic. That's going to give you a true network of filmmakers and collaborators and actors and crew members that you actually like working with, rather than just a group of people that you may be able to help each other from time to time. Festivals like this are a really incredible way to connect with other filmmakers. I think taking advantage of places where you can see each other's work, reaching out to filmmakers to say, I saw your film at the festival and it was excellent, and that's all I had to say was that you did a great job. All of that is going to build you out a network of other filmmakers in a much more organic way than going to a networking event where you hand out business cards and you promote your latest project and you make zero actual connection with other people. So yeah, I think taking advantage of things like this, but also once that tool on the site is fully rolled out, it'll be a really great place to connect with other filmmakers and find ways that you can collaborate in the future. Absolutely. All right, so I know we only have a couple of minutes left. If there's another question, we'll jump into that. If not, I'm gonna throw up the screen one more time that has the promo code and my contact information down at the bottom. If you have questions about using the site, if you're unsure of how to navigate something, one of the new virtual tools, either jump into our filmmaker office hours on Tuesday mornings or send me an email. My email is down at the bottom. I love working with other filmmakers. I love the casting process, obviously. And I'm always happy to help wherever Backstage can. So use that promo code to cast for free, put that money somewhere else in your productions. And then feel free to reach out if you need any additional help navigating the site or using the casting tools or anything like that. Also, as you sign up for the account, you'll see a place to sign up for your free crew profile. So go ahead and do that if that's something that's interesting to you. Like I said, over the next few months, the tools are going to roll out in a more full way, but there is a place on the site right this second where you can jump in and start creating that crew profile. It takes some time to get those profiles to a really good place. And so we wanted to roll that out first and give people time to build it out so that when we put up the jobs, everyone's like ready to hit the ground running. So if you've never used the site before, at least worth jumping on and doing that. But again, if you have any other questions or if problems come up on your productions, always feel free to reach out to me or jump into our office hours or help team. The whole Backstage team really loves working with filmmakers and helping them find the people that they need. So you're welcome to reach out whenever. All right, I'm going to end the share. And thank you all for having me. I had a real blast doing this, and I